It is Tuesday, June 10th, 2026. We're watching 5 developments that reveal where inflation stands, whether peace in the Middle East is moving forward, and what the world's biggest sporting event says about global unity. Here's what's happening. 1. America's inflation report drops this morning. What we see will tell us how much the Iran war is hitting household budgets. At 8:30 this morning, the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics will release the Consumer Price Index for May. Economists project inflation ran 4.2% year over year. Core inflation, which excludes food and energy, is expected at 2.9%. Both numbers matter. Headline inflation includes energy, and energy is where the war shows up most directly. Oil prices nearly doubled since the conflict began in February. Gas at the pump climbed from roughly $3.40 to nearly $5 a gallon in some regions. Food costs are rising too because roughly 1/3 of the world's fertilizer is produced in the Persian Gulf. Why this matters? If inflation is indeed running above 4%, the Federal Reserve has a problem. Rate cuts, which markets were betting on earlier this year, now look less likely. That changes mortgage rates, credit card rates, and savings returns. It also squeezes households whose wages have not kept pace. The April report showed wage gains disappearing. For 3 years, wages were outpacing inflation. That ended last month. If May shows inflation still elevated, working Americans will know the cost of living just got harder. We'll have those numbers in minutes. 2. The World Cup opening match is tomorrow. What Mexico versus South Africa really represents is a geopolitical shift. The match kicks off at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time at Estadio Azteca in Mexico City. South Africa is returning to the World Cup for the first time since 2010, when they hosted. Exactly 16 years later, they face Mexico again in the opener. It's a calculated reminder of something FIFA and the 3 host nations want to project: continuity, stability, and global partnership. Mexico City has declared tomorrow a holiday. Authorities are prepared for massive crowds. Why this matters? The World Cup is theater. The opening ceremony will feature 3 simultaneous performances across Mexico City, Toronto, and Los Angeles. Shakira performs in Mexico, Arctic Monkeys in Toronto, Coldplay in Los Angeles. The message is clear. After 5 months of war in the Middle East that fractured global energy, politics, and economics, major power blocs are demonstrating they can still organize global events. They can still cooperate. FIFA is explicitly using this tournament to signal normalcy. The subtext is the U.S., Canada, and Mexico, the core of North American alliance, are functioning, synchronized, and capable. Against the backdrop of Middle East instability, that sends a message. 3. The ceasefire between Israel and Iran remains fragile. New developments over the past 48 hours show how close we are to breakdown. Israel has halted attacks on Iran directly. Iran has suspended its missile and drone operations, but Israel continues strikes on Lebanon against Hezbollah. Iran has warned that continued attacks on Hezbollah will prompt Iranian retaliation. Israel's government has authorized direct talks with Lebanon aimed at disarming Hezbollah. Those talks are expected to begin soon in Washington. None of this means peace. It means both sides are trying to maintain a pause while negotiations continue. Why this matters? The fragile ceasefire is actually the framework for permanent negotiations. The U.S. and Iran are supposed to meet in Pakistan soon. Trump administration officials have signaled they want a nuclear agreement that prevents Iran from weaponizing uranium and opens the Strait of Hormuz. But Israeli strikes on Lebanese positions keep threatening to reignite the whole conflict. Every Israeli airstrike is a test of Iran's patience. Every Israeli compromise on Lebanon talks is a signal that negotiations might work. The math is precarious. If Israel and Iran cannot control their respective allied groups in Lebanon, the ceasefire collapses and we're back to shooting. The fact that this is even holding after 100 days of war means both sides want a deal more than they want to keep fighting. 4. The Iran war has already cost the U.S. military $30 billion, and it's still running. A Pentagon official testified to Congress that equipment repair and replacement costs are consuming the biggest portion of spending. The U.S. has lost aircraft, helicopters, and ships. Naval operations in the Strait of Hormuz have been continuous and intensive. The Strait of Hormuz itself has been closed by Iran since April 18th. That means 20% of the world's daily oil supply cannot move through the world's most critical shipping choke point. Why this matters? $30 billion is almost the size of the entire annual defense budget for some countries, and that's 4 months of war. If negotiations fail and this continues through fall, costs will double or triple. More importantly, that money is being spent while the economy is already stressed by inflation. The federal government is fighting a war abroad while inflation rises at home. That's a difficult political and economic position. Every day the war continues, the case for negotiations gets stronger. The Pentagon's budget line item becomes a visible argument for making a deal. 5. Expectations for what the World Cup represents are colliding with reality. The tournament is meant to be a celebration of global unity, but it's happening during war. The opening matches begin tomorrow. The U.S. plays Paraguay on June 12th. Argentina, the defending champions, begin their campaign against Algeria on June 16th. 32 nations will play, 104 matches over 39 days. But roughly 1/3 of the world's countries are reeling from the consequences of the Iran-U.S. conflict. Energy prices are historically high. Food is expensive. Shipping is disrupted. The tournament is trying to function as if global conditions are normal. They are not. Why this matters? This is not a value judgment about whether the tournament should happen. It's an observation about what it reveals. FIFA and the host nations decided the show must go on. That suggests confidence, or desperation, that things are stabilizing. If the ceasefire collapses before the tournament ends, it will mark an extraordinary symbolic failure. If the ceasefire holds, FIFA will take credit for keeping the world united through sport while diplomacy worked in the background. Either way, the World Cup becomes a measuring stick for whether this moment in history moves toward peace or back toward conflict. Like and subscribe for fact-based news from official government sources only. Leave a comment. Tell us what stories you want to hear.